I'd like to tell a story that explains a little bit how sometimes our myth making goes and applies towards real people because we believe there really is such an individual as Sappho, the poet. And we actually have some myths that in some ways maybe explain why she's so skilled. And I think we do that still today, where we make up our own stories to explain things that are unexplainable. So let me tell you a little story about a man who is the greatest musician ever. His name is Orpheus. And Orpheus can play the harp and he can sing and he can write songs of such beauty that even the most dangerous wild animals would come in from the forest, sit at his feet and purr while he would sing. People would come from all over the earth to hear his beautiful voice. Now, as it would happen, Orpheus fell in love with a beautiful woman named Eurydice. And Eurydice, of course, fell in love with him. And on the day of their wedding, Eurydice and all of her attendants prepare her for the wedding and make her as beautiful as can be. And then when she was ready, she and her attendants walked to the site of the wedding to have this beautiful, no doubt musical wedding. But as she's walking to the wedding to her beloved Orpheus, she steps on a poisonous snake and dies. Happy story. And of course, in Greek myth, when you die, you go to the underworld, to the domain of Hades, one of the Olympian gods, and also the domain of his wife, Persephone, who is, of course, the beautiful human that he takes on as his own wife. And it's devastating in some ways because Persephone is only down there with him. And when she's down there, it's winter. And then she gets to come up and be with her mother. And then spring and summer come. But then she goes back down to her lover. But that's another story. So poor Eurydice is down there. She's dead. And Orpheus is distraught, begins singing songs of such sadness. Well, what do you do in a Greek myth when you want to make contact with the dead? You go to the underworld. We've already seen this with Odysseus, and actually this is a common part of our story. And this is a dangerous thing for a mortal to do, but he goes down bravely, bringing his harp. And he comes, of course, to the three-headed dog Cerberus, who are there guarding the entrance into Hades, and they're ferocious. But he plays his harp and sings, and they fall asleep, and he slips by them, comes to the boatman, to the ferryman Charon, who demands payment to get over the river to get into Hades. But he plays his music, Orpheus does, and Charon agrees to take him across on his ferry. His music is of such beauty that he winds up working his way all the way into the throne room of Hades and Persephone. And he explains his plight, that his lovely Eurydice and he were to be married. She stepped on a poisonous snake. Now she's dead. Now she's here. And could he please have her back? Well, Persephone and Hades are both moved to tears from the story, especially since the story is sung by Orpheus, and they agree that she can come back to the land of the living and be alive again on one condition, and that is that he must play on the way out, and then she can follow the song, but he must trust them that she is following and not look back to see if she's still there, because if he looks back and sees her, then deal's off and she's stuck in the land of the dead. So he starts walking back and he's playing and he's singing, and he's not really sure if she's back there because, of course, she's dead. She's a shade. She has no weight to her, so there are no footsteps. So she has no idea if they've been true to their word or if they're just trying to get rid of him. and whether she's following, but he keeps going and he keeps working his way out of the underworld into the land of the living. And right when he gets to the door, he just is not sure that he hasn't been snookered, that then perhaps that this was all just a big con and she's not actually back there. So before he actually gets out the door, he makes the fateful decision to look behind him. Sure enough, there she is following, just as they said. But because he looked back before he got out of the underworld, then she was sucked back in and must now forever live in the underworld. Well, Orpheus comes out and he is devastated because now it's almost as if she had died twice. So first time to the poisonous snake, and the second time because he did not have the faith to believe that she was following behind him. So he's desperate and he decides he will never sing or write a song again. He's never going to create again. He's going to hang up his harp. And this, of course, brings a blight on the land. The crops start to grow. The people become sad. And a group of women come to him and beg him. They want to dance. They want to sing. They want to enjoy the lovely music of Orpheus. But he refuses. He says, no, I have given up music. I've given up poetry. I've given up my harp. Well, apparently you don't want to really make women who want to dance angry. And so in a fit of rage, they attack Orpheus and they kill him. They rip him apart. This is such a happy story, is it not? They rip him apart in their rage. They sever his head. They throw his harp and his head out into the river. And the head and the harp just begin to float slowly down the river out into the sea. And that head and the harp just bob their way until they actually land on the beach of Lesbos. And this is a story that is used to explain how it is that someone such as Sappho could be given such a gift where she could sing a song that could move people to tears or move people to act. That it must be in some ways connected to the actions of the gods, to the stories of the past. I think I've often wondered how much the Greeks really believe in their stories and how many of them are just stories to help them make sense of things that are unexplainable, like how come some people just are so talented. I think that's why we tell our stories. I think that's why we love our superhero stories. I think that's why we love our we have children's stories and just so stories, because we're always trying to come to grips with something that's truly remarkable about human beings, and that is that they are gifted, that some are incredibly gifted. And so this is how special Sappho is, that she actually works her way into the greatest story of the story of music in the myths. I want to share my favorite poem. I've asked you to share yours. Mine, and I'm reading from the more modern PDF version that you'll find here in this section of sessions. And this is one of my favorites. It's just a fragment. We don't even get to see the end of it, but it's a love song. And I love love songs because I love love. And so I'm not going to sing it because I have no idea how it would have sounded. And we have no idea, perhaps even how it may have sounded in the voice of someone as lovely as Sappho. But it reads this way in a very modern translation. In my eyes, he matches the gods, that man who sits there facing you. Any man, whatever. Listening from close by to the sweetness of your voice as you talk. Notice he starts off with the man who's watching, but she's really identifying the woman who is listening. That is the object of her desire. So any man, whatever, listening from close by to the sweetness of your voice as you talk, the sweetness of your laughter, yes, that, I swear it, sets the heart to shaking inside my breast, since once I look at you for a moment, I can't speak any longer. But my tongue breaks down, and then all at once a subtle fire races inside my skin. My eyes can't see a thing, and a whirring whistle thrums at my hearing. Cold sweat covers me, and a trembling takes a hold of me all over. I'm greener than the grass is, and appear to myself to be little short of dying. But all must be endured, since even a poor, we don't know what she says there, but she's going to speak of herself as just a poor poet, I am assuming. And anybody who's ever been in love, I hope you have. And if you haven't, I hope you will be. Knows this feeling of seeing that loved one, that one that you are just so smitten with that you can hardly speak, that you can hardly think, that your heart races, that I love this idea that about my eyes can't see a thing, and a whirring whistle thrums at my hearing. Love has a way, it seems, of making us into blabbering idiots. And it's beautiful. When we go back to that original idea of the sublime, and I think one of the things that captured people about Sappho, and captures us about love, and love poetry, and love songs, and love movies, is that in love, perhaps more than anything else, we have a sense of the sublime, something of utter humanness. Sometimes that utter humanness can turn into utter pain, but that too is a kind of humanness. Sometimes it's an absolute ecstasy, and sometimes it's a thrill that comes to us almost as an ache. That, I think, is something that our poets and our songwriters and our painters and our sculptors have been trying to get at forever. Now, I have something rather bold to ask of you. Having read Sappho, and of course, I'm going to assume many of you have experienced a sense of love. I'm going to offer, for an assignment here, extra credit. That's right, extra credit to anyone who has the guts to try their hand at writing a love song, perhaps in the voice of Sappho, and something in the way you would imagine Sappho to do, perhaps in such a way as you would imagine a Homeric hero to do. Try your hand at it and be brave, post it. And if that's a little too much for you, then I'll give you another alternative for those who feel a little nervous about that. Do you have a favorite love song or a favorite love poem? Post it. Post it here. And that would be a kind of a fun thing. So I'm going to put that actually in the discussion dialogue, because I want other people to be able to see it. It's a little scary here, but I think we're getting to be friends, and I'd love to have you post that. So in the meantime, I hope you have a great rest of the week. Next week, we're going to be dealing with Ovid and his and the Romans, and the Roman takes on these stories. And his stories, of course, are delightful. So anyway, I'm excited to see what you might have to say. I do have a question right here, and I do have a question, of course, to go with the discussion that gives you extra credit. Anyway, hope you have a great rest.